So you get your twice as sharp scissor sharpener. You start working through the scissors in your house and you start feeling pretty good about it. And you put yourself out there and say, yeah, I sharpen scissors. And in that process, you start seeing how many different types of scissors there are. You do like the standard Fiskars or the one in the kitchen, and then people drop off these little teeny ones, and then people drop off pinking shears, and then you see stuff like buttonhole scissors. And somewhere along that journey, you're going to see knife edge scissors. So in this video, we're going to talk about what knife edge scissors are, what sets them apart from all the other scissors, and we're going to talk about some unique challenges in doing them. And make sure you stay tuned to the end, because during the cut test, we're going to see that maybe I don't totally agree with the way Wolf Industries suggests to do knife edge scissors. What's up again, guys? My name is Matt, and it is Thursday night, and it's time for another Thursday night grind, where every Thursday night I go on to YouTube and I sharpen something on the bench here at the American Edge. This and all other Thursday night grinds are brought to you by the Guild of Professional Sharpeners. You can learn more about that at guildofsharpeners.org. And this week, like most weeks, there's a lot going on, but the most coolest thing that happened is that we finally got together and we had a Zoom call as a guild, and it was about an hour and a half long conversation about sharpening in business. So a lot of the content that I've been putting into the guild this week has been follow-ups from that phone call. Some marketing stuff, we got flyers going out, the Dropbox, Zach's gonna be putting a Dropbox up. Talked about some honing rods, which you saw last week's video. I did some work on the honing rod, which I'm now offering as an upsell in my business. So all sorts of stuff going on there. If this whole thing about sharpening, scissors, knives, tools, that sort of stuff interests you, and you are interested in learning that skill and then turning that skill into a business and monetizing that skill, then the Guild is the place that you want to be. You can learn more about that at guildofsharpeners.org. You guys don't see this bench much, but I like this one because of the pad, and you'll see more on that in a little bit. First, let's talk about these knife edge scissors. These are pretty clearly knife edge scissors because it says so right on them. That's convenient. But if you don't notice that, or if it's not printed on there, what you will see is on one blade, it's going to be kind of standard looking. And on the other blade, it's going to be a very steep bevel. And for the sake of this conversation, let's call the more shallow one the flat one, but we'll see it usually is on the order of 20 degrees. And this steeper one is the knife edge coming in at around 50 degrees. So before we get into all that, let's first take them apart and clean them up. That's something I try to do on every scissor that comes across the bench. Okay, so don't be fooled by these. After you do them a while, you'll get it. But this is just a lock nut on the back. So that's an 8mm wrench. Pop that nut off and don't lose it, which is why I like working over this bench, because when you drop these things, they find little crevices and then you can never get them back. This one was unique. Usually these, once you get that lock nut off, these pop, the screw comes right out. This one was a little bit stuck, which caught my attention. And you'll see I'm working through a couple different pairs of, a couple different flathead screwdrivers to get the right leverage. And what I do, which you can't see real well here, but I set it on the bench and I get my shoulder over my screwdriver, and I've done enough mechanical work so that I kind of can tell when the screw's going to strip out, right? Like you have to strip a few to figure that out, and then don't go that far, but you can lean on these. This one took quite a bit, to be honest. But once it got going, it came out pretty easy. Now, one thing, when you're getting this out, sometimes there is a little washer in there, and this one has one. So I try to grab it with the threads of the screw and to keep it with the screw. And then I put all of this into my magnetic tray so that it doesn't walk away. All right, so now it's generally the cleanup thing, right? I use Goo Gone because I just found that it works well. And I take a cloth. These are actually the Wipe Alls, WYPALL by Kimberly Clark. I found the guys, I took a course at Cummins, the diesel engine making company, and they had these things to wipe all, and I was like, dang, like these are not too bad. So I got some for the shop. But anyway, just a little dab will do ya, and then I wipe down the edge. Now these are all, I've got a big batch of sewing scissors here. These are relatively clean compared to a lot of scissors I get. For the more like multi-purpose scissors, I oftentimes need to take them to the wire wheel to remove all the rust and other stuff that accumulates. The Goo Gone is nice here because a lot of times it is the tape residue that is stuck on the face of these blades. You might have noticed there I showed you the working surface of the cloth, like it's pulling stuff off. All right, here's a good one for you. To get in and clean that surface where the screw rides, I'm taking a Phillips head screwdriver, the moist part of the cloth that I'm using, and I'm getting in there. Here I reach for a little bit smaller one so I could warp around there. I think you'll see here soon this was a pretty dirty one. And one other thing I found with, there you go, there's spots of debris coming out of there. One thing I found with the Goo Gone is sometimes it needs a couple seconds or a minute to work to dissolve the goo. So sometimes if you just practice patience and then work it a little bit more, you'll find that what wasn't coming off before starts coming off. Skipping ahead just a little bit, I did want to show you this little trick. I'm going to pull that delicate washer off and leave that in my tray. But here, same little moist part of the pad, and then put the screwdriver in there and clean the screw as well. This gets the threads cleaned up and the surface that is riding on that washer. Hot tip. Now for some scissors, it works better to, see I just dropped it, man, you got to work over a surface here. And but I'll get it. So a lot of times it is more convenient to sharpen the scissors separated, which takes on its own set of procedures. And for these, because they are going to spread apart enough so that I can reach the whole cutting edge, I'm going to put them back together. You'll see here I'm using Wolf's scissor lubricant, and I just put a couple drops on the mating surface near the pin. And as I'm doing this, I recall that I did not clean the Goo Gone off. So I actually want to go back and clean any leftover cleaning agent off of there, and then I'll reapply the scissor lubricant. But for these, as I was saying, they are able to be sharpened when they are assembled. So for the next part of this process, I'm going to reassemble these, and I'll skip ahead here in a minute. But I also put a little dab in the part where the screw rides as well, right? So man, don't drop them. Okay, the other thing that I was going to mention is that I'm not going to put the lock nut on here right now. I'm going to get this reassembled, go over, sharpen it, and then set the final tension with the lock nut after the edges are sharp. Okay, we're just about to roll into a very cool part of this video. I just want to remind you, if you are getting value out of this or any other Thursday Night Grind, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up, the little bell, and leave a comment below just to say hi. Thanks so much. With these knife edge scissors, because both blades are different angle, I have been working through like what is the best procedure for this. So I went to the source. I went to the book that came with my Twice as Sharp from Wolf Industries, and their guidance was do the flat, which is really about 20. Do the flat edge first, and then so you'll cut the bevel with that. But after you cut the bevel, they say change the angle and just work the knife edge. So you'll pull the burr back and then not hone the flat side. So you'll see here I just painted it, even though I expect it to be around 20 degrees. Paint it, check it, and this actually process hasn't worked real well for me. Like right there, it looks pretty good, but then what happens and what works better for me is I spin it up and check this out. I haven't told you guys much about my new dust collection system, but remote control, good stuff. We'll get into that later. But anyway, just a real light touch and then check it. and tune in my angle based on the feedback from that. And I realize that has the potential to be sloppy, right? So just use a real light touch, and I think that it's better to start on the heel of the edge rather than the edge of the edge, heel of the bevel. That even is the right thing. Anyway, so now we're just tuning it in, getting that angle right, and then we will take some passes here. The other thing when I'm checking here is, where does that bevel start? This has been a hard thing on some scissors. You can't see where the edge starts, and forgive my head bobbing in your view there, but do that. Okay, let's work on this tip. This is, Zach, this is for you, man. This came up on the call with the guild this week. Like, how do you not burn your tips? And this is another hot tip from my chainsaw sharpening experience where, forgive my head there in the way, but yeah, man, it is real easy to burn tips. So I do not spend much time there. If you could see me touching it there. Sorry, my head's in the way, but I'm a total rookie with the camera. Anyway, so those little bumps at the tip are what I'm going for. And right there, see, like, then work them around, get the whole thing. It can be a little uneven, but you can work that out, and it's way better than burning the tip. And what I'm going to show you here, I'm going to get you in on this, is I can, like, when I'm cutting this on the wheel, I can see when I'm getting the edge over it for the most part. See that bright spot right there? I'll point it out from right there to right there. Like, maybe you can see that, but that's a part where I'm not there yet, and I'm feeling a burr there. But you got to feel a burr down the whole edge, just like any other sharpening thing you're doing. So in this case, I got to work this one a little bit. And I'm going to go to the next step here. Okay, so we did all the work we need to do on that one. We are going to leave that burr on the flat face for now. We're going to flip it over, and we are going to work the knife edge. Now, this is one I'm just going to 50 degrees, and we'll fine tune it like we did the other one. So actually, you see how that one was a little bit less than 20 when I tuned it up there, somewhere on the order of 14. That thing is not a very precise tool, but it does fine. So we're going to start out at 50 degrees and see what it looks like when we come up against the wheel. In this case, it was a little close. This is actually kind of neat. Like, as the wheel is spinning down, that way you're not touching it with as much force when you're checking the angle. This one needed to come closer to a 45, but we got it there pretty easy. And one thing to check out here is that your clamp is far enough down on the scissor so that you don't run your clamp into your grinding wheel. That's a mistake you probably need to make a few times to remember to check every time. But anyway, here we go. Same thing. Just touch that tip a little bit. Touch that tip, and then, well, sometimes I blend it in with a pass from tip to heel. In this case, you just get a good look at my hood. Sorry about that. But this one put up a burr real easy. So next step here is to push them apart as you close so that they don't cut. Squeeze them together and separate. This pushes the burr that has been pushed over into the flat side of the scissor back over to the bevel. So now the burr is on the bevel, and put it back in the clamp. You know, we're still on the knife edge here. And come over to the honing wheel. Now, Doug, you sent me a video once of the right way to set this arm, but what happens for me, and I was talking to John, this happens for you too, where when you come over to the honing wheel, you don't get the same angle that you had on the cutting wheel. The way that I have jury-rigged that is with those washers. I space the clamp up a little bit, and magically it seems to work great. So anyway, a couple honing passes on the knife edge. Make sure that I have a little burr coming up, and then we are good. Take it out and cut that burr off. I have found that sometimes when I cut the burr off, it puts another little tiny burr back in the bevel. So I have found that on occasion, and this time by default, I'm just going to take another light pass on the honing wheel, push up a nice little burr, and then cut it off again and move on. One downside you might be seeing here is on these steep angles, the other end of the scissor hits my dust collection hose, so I'm working around that at the moment. A little touching and going around the tip of there on the hone. You'd be surprised how much heat you can put in with that honing wheel, so I would definitely recommend defaulting to the bumping mechanism on the honing wheel as well. All right, so now we're going to cut that burr off again, and we are not going to do any more work on what we're calling the flat blade. Sometimes I found too that a nice wipe down removes any burr that has caught, so that's what that's all about. On to the cut test. Right below my workstation, I keep a old shirt that I use to check my scissors. Here, sometimes I've also found that some cardstock is nice at removing any burr. And here we're going to take a few cuts with the shirt. I'm noticing here that I need a little bit of side pressure. Like I try to make my cuts with no side pressure to see how it goes, and that one didn't cut magically like it should. So I just keep checking my work, make sure that I'm not missing something, but a little bit of side pressure there, maybe like it's cutting. All right, so right here I'm questioning it. So I'm going to spend a little time looking at it, and I think I'm off camera here. I am off camera, but what I'm doing is I'm feeling the burr that is on the bevel of the flat side of the scissor. I have this little honing stick, which I actually really like, but I'm nervous to use it. I don't like using it freehand here, but just a real light pass to see if I'm pushing that burr back over, cut that off. And still not feeling good. Let's take a cut test to see what's going on. Trying to find a section of the shirt that's not already cut up. And what we're going to find out is that I'm not stoked. I don't like it. So we are going to go back to the twice as sharp, and we are going to hone the, see, it didn't cut right there. Little side pressure, it cuts, but it's not cutting great right there. All right, so let's go back and hone the flat side. This is where it helps to remember what angles you're using for the scissor, because if you can get it back to where it was, then it saves you a little bit of work resetting the angle again. In this case, I remembered, and I was able to go back to that, and with almost shockingly on the first try, it was right on. Of course, I find that out by the Sharpie trick, and then spinning that honing wheel a little bit. Sometimes apply a little bit of pressure to pull that Sharpie off. And we're good. Same here. Just double checking that I'm actually getting it. And careful. Yep, there you go. Bump, 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 bump. Yeah, I like that. I like that move right there. Bump, 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 and then blend it in. Okay, so checking it. We got it. Feeling for a burr. And do I come into view to cut that off? Let's pull it out of the clamp and see. Yes. All right, cut that little burr off. Well, I owe you an apology here. I did all that work, and then I did the cut test out of the view. I think I might have monkeyed around it. But the bottom line is it cut like exactly the way it's supposed to cut. So this was all I needed to see that I'm not so sure that I'm totally on board with Wolf's plan. Oh, you see that one? That was a good one. Let's watch that again. Okay. All right, so I don't know Wolf Industries. I'm not sure I'm totally into it. At least with those scissors, I got better results by honing both the flat blade and the knife blade. All right, so here's the part I'm doing. Like this is always befuddled me as well. So here's the way I'm coming up with this, right? Setting tension on these, like if you don't have them in a vise, right? Like when you put this lock nut on there, what happens is you tighten up the lock nut, and then it gets too tight. So you undo the lock nut, you loosen the thing, and then you can't hold it, and like it's just kind of a hassle. So I'm using the vise as my third hand here. I'm holding the screw where it is while I tighten that lock nut, and then I clamped it in such a way so that I can still maneuver the action on it, right? So I'm going to actually oh no, it was good. So I'm going to just tighten the lock nut a little bit more and check that out. So those came out good. Sometimes it requires more work than that. If you made it this far, thank you very much. I hope that you derive some value from that, both in understanding what knife edge scissors are, a couple different ways to approach the sharpening. It's weird, right? Because you have to change the angle. So it's kind of a tough thing. Work on your own procedure to work through them a few times and get the feel for it, understanding maybe you're going to want to hone that flat side and maybe you're not. I will tell you that this pair of scissors that we did tonight came with a basket of a bunch of other scissors from a sewing shop, and there were some Ginger knife edge scissors that I did shortly after doing this pair, and that pair might have been better off not honing the flat side. So I don't know, try it out. Let the cut test guide your decision there, or let experience and just understand that there isn't necessarily a right way to do every pair, but do what you can to get the best quality result on the scissors when they come across your bench. Thanks very much. Please, again, do all the things that you can do to help me out that don't cost you anything, and those are the subscribing, leave a comment, hit the thumbs up, hit that little bell because I'm coming at you every Thursday night, and I look forward to what we're going to see next week. Thanks.